Hello and welcome to the Week 10 late game halftime with Harmon stream. That's right, we're excited here today because I am not alone. I'm Matt Harmon, _BYB on Twitter, but I have a wonderful guest. I mean, are you a guest? You've been on the show a couple times now, but it's Liz Loza at @LizLoza_FF. Liz, how's Week 10 treating you?
It's great. It's fantastic.
It's fantastic.
I have Nick Chubb in a couple of standard league lineups, so I'm feeling pretty good.
Look at you. You're a professional. You're right on point here because we are going to talk Nick Chubb first. He has a big game here in Week 10 against the Falcons. Scores twice, one via the air, one via the ground. Goes over 170 yards on the ground in the second Hugh Jackson-less, Todd Haley-less game for the Cleveland Browns. What are your thoughts on Nick Chubb?
I think that Freddie has proven that a man's place is in the kitchen because he's got this backfield cooking.
I love it. That was good.
You're welcome. And I think that this is a different offense with Freddie Kitchens involved. Last week we saw Duke Johnson go off. Duke Johnson also scored in this one. So moving forward, the Browns are on bye, I believe, in Week 11, but they get the Cincinnati Bengals in Week 12, and that is a defense that is on full-on free fall. They can't stop anything. Drew Brees passed on them for 3 touchdowns and ran in a touchdown, which is interesting when you note Baker Mayfield's rushing ability. So, I mean, I don't know if Vontaze Burfict can get healthy by then, but I don't even think it matters.
I don't think so either. And it was good to see Nick Chubb involved in the pass game as well because obviously Duke Johnson's kind of that guy. 4 for 31 and a touch for Duke Johnson. I was saying all week, you know, it felt like to me on fantasy Twitter this week, it was just Duke Johnson week. Every analyst out there had some sort of routes run.
Wait, let me guess. Are the Atlanta Falcons giving up the most receptions via the air to the running back position? Wait, and the third most yards via the air to the running back position?
What a professional. Yeah, no, like everybody had a stat about Duke Johnson, but my thought was like, what if it was just a coincidence that like, because sometimes their correct answer in football analysis is, you know, stuff happens. And so it just happened to be that the first game without Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley, Duke Johnson has his best game. That was always my thought. But I do think we're seeing more intelligent use of the players and at least less excuse making that Hugh Jackson is no longer there. So I'm excited about Nick Chubb. I think he, you know, our good friend Matt Waldman thought he was the best running back class, not of just this class, but one of the last several that he's evaluated.
Well, and the fear was that after that knee injury, he would never regain form, and then he crushed it at the combine. So we knew that at least in a vacuum he could perform. So it's nice to see that translate, those metrics translate to the field.
Which makes you think like, man, what would he have done had he never ripped that knee up?
Well, let's not think that way. Maybe he'd be lazy. Maybe he would have hurt himself in another way. Sometimes obstacles and challenges force you to grow even beyond what you are gifted with at birth.
See, you're much more wise. You're much more, you know, just
Don't
a
well-rounded
person than I am.
Where you stand.
And you know me, a stupid young, have no perspective on life. I want to jump into a few questions from the chat room before we keep rolling to the next subject.
Why can't we see ourselves? What's going on?
Why do you want to see yourself? You know what you look like. I know what you look like. We both look great. I look fantastic. You look fantastic. We're beautiful. Anyways, moving on. So Aaron Jones, people have some questions about him, and we're going to talk about him next. But first, I want to address a couple other questions. Is Allen Robinson the best wide receiver of all time?
No.
Obviously, yes.
No.
Correct.
It's not true.
He's obviously the best receiver of all time. Has a great game today, so that was wonderful to see.
Finally, your Allen Robinson pick finally paid off.
Well,
how much money have you lost in DFS trying to start him every week, except those that he
luckily,
was out?
I don't play DFS for money because I'm a Yahoo employee, and
we can play them internally.
Just come on, not my narrative.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah, it's been a rough ride for Robinson, but I was glad to see them hold him out for a little while, let him get healthy. And this Bears offense was really cooking. We can talk about Bears later if we have time. But this is a more interesting question going back to the Browns. Daniel from Twitter wants to know, should I drop Jarvis Landry after this awful 3.2 performance today? Because he really hasn't done much all season. Where are you at on Jarvis Landry the rest of the way? And this was in a game where Baker Mayfield played well too.
And Brian Poole in coverage, who gave up over 100 yards to Maurice Harris last week, was able to limit Jarvis Landry. You like the kid's hands, right? I mean, he's blessing everybody. But I think that he might be more of an in real life good player than a fantasy translator. He'll have his moments. But if who is he trying to trade for?
Nothing. He's just saying, is Jarvis Landry somebody he's can he drop the rest of the
I think
way?
it depends on your record. You know, if you have a winning record and you have the ability to stash him, go for it. But if you are at 500 or losing and you need to make some moves, do it.
I like that. You know, you don't have to be attached to where you drafted these players at this point. You don't have to be attached to name value at all. Landry really has been converting on the volume all season. I think a lot of us wondered, is this going to be an upgrade for him going to Cleveland and, you know, being used outside more or whatever. But the volume has still been there, but the production has not been.
And Duke Johnson,
Is
now
that same
seeing
type
those
of-
looks,
same type of
the
player.
volume isn't as much.
Same type of area for sure. I mean, today he has 5 targets, which led the team, but big deal. I think Baker was better spreading things out and using all different type of weapons. Rashard Higgins catches a touchdown on his lone reception of the day. So that was nice to see. And I think our commenter here said that he's 9-0 and leading my league. So yeah, I think you can send Landry packing. So back to Aaron Jones, who someone did have a question about.
No, Gonzo, I did not just wake up. I've been up since 7 a.m. working. How about you? How's your sofa treating you this morning? Next.
That's what you get on a real-time show, baby. I love it. So we are asked about.
P.S. Women aren't chicks. Let's also just get past this.
Let's be normal. I can't keep pulling up this chat. You guys keep asking too many questions, which is a good thing. Should I trade Kirk Cousins for Aaron Jones or Mark Ingram since Le'Veon Bell is not playing this year? If you can trade a quarterback for a valuable running back, you should do so. And I think Aaron Jones is a valuable running back. He was really ripping it up, recorded a fast 21 miles per hour speed per Next Gen Stats, which was the fastest any Packers running back has run all year. I mean, we know he's the most explosive talent, but are the Packers finally waking up and treating him as such?
Well, I think they've had to. There's no Ty Montgomery, who weirdly was still in the mix, even though I feel like, why would you get rid of Ty Montgomery when you could get rid of Randall Cobb unless there were no buyers at in the situation? But he's obviously, what is he averaging, like 6-point-something yards per carry?
Currently today, he's averaging 11.9 yards per carry.
So there's so much depth at the quarterback position. I mean, Lamar Jackson might even be in play in Week 11, and there are 6 teams on bye next week. So if you can get someone to bite on Cousins, and you can get a running back, which is the thinnest position, and certainly one that has trouble returning on investment, then I would advocate for that 100.
Yeah, that's a good. I want to double back to Lamar Jackson in a second, but someone brings up an interesting point in the chat. They said they actually had Aaron Jones and Nick Chubb on their, drafts. They took them in August and then they dropped them. And I know that's like crushing, but the thing that makes me think about is, this is why I didn't draft Nick Chubb anywhere. I didn't draft Aaron Jones anywhere. But when other people start dropping them, that's when I like to target these type of guys that going into the season, obviously I don't think either of them had a clear pathway to future
Jones was
work.
suspended.
Jones was suspended, and we knew it was. I think we all knew it was going to be this way with this Packers backfield, that it would take Mike McCarthy a while to wake up and actually play his best guy. Nick Chubb obviously is taking Carlos Hyde getting traded out. But these guys were stashes, and I love to stash these type players. I just don't necessarily like to draft them. So I think that's an interesting thing. These are 2 clear examples of how to approach these guys when we come next year and we have these big-time talents that don't have clear playing time. Maybe you don't draft them, but you keep them on your radar throughout the year. So, like, now I have teams where I have Nick Chubb, but that was not the case in August. I just think that's an interesting thought process. But back on Lamar Jackson, where are you at? Heat check Lamar Jackson. He's probably going to start in Week 11, but do you think he starts the rest of the year?
Well, I think that's dependent on his performance in Week 11. He does have the Bengals. We've already talked about how the Bengals are a team that's folding, right? There's some chatter that RG3 would start ahead of him, but RG3 has played 0% of the team's snaps. Jackson has been on the field for nearly 13% in some sub packages and specialty plays. So if Flacco's got this hip injury, we hear it's more day-to-day than week-to-week, but the Ravens have dropped their past 3 games. John Harbaugh's job is potentially in jeopardy. Why not make a move to the explosive first-round draft pick that is the future of this franchise? Now, that's assuming rational coaching. We can't make those assumptions. But again, Drew Brees did rush for a touchdown, and we know Jackson's got wheels, and he's facing the Bengals. I like that. Again, 6 teams on a bye. I think he's owned in 13% of Yahoo leagues, something like that.
Which is actually like kind of wildly high, but
maybe it's less than 7%. Maybe it's 7%. I don't know. It's not a lot.
No matter what, if he ends up getting the starting job, whether it's in Week 11 or going forward, you're going to be thinking about him in DFS. You're going to be thinking about him in season long, because these rushing quarterbacks just boost your floor so much. Even if he has a crappy passing day and, runs for 30-something yards.
There's no tape. He's got fresh legs. November is usually the month in which players start dropping like flies. Defensive players start getting hurt. People are exhausted, and you've got this new fresh quarterback who's been holding it until Thanksgiving, basically.
Yeah.
That's money.
That's a really good point. And if you think about the Ravens coaching staff, two of the guys on there, Greg Roman and Marty Morningweg, both have history with mobile quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Greg Roman, way back in the day with Colin Kaepernick and Tyrod Taylor in Buffalo, some of Tyrod's best seasons up there. And, of course, Marty Morningweg was there when Michael Vick really had his best years in Philadelphia.
And that's the comp that Lamar Jackson has drawn.
Exactly. And I think it's legit. I like Lamar Jackson a lot. And people want to talk about the Tennessee Titans. We've seen them come up in the chat a lot. They want to hear about Tennessee. I know you Tennessee Titans fans really got a chip on your shoulder about your team, not getting a lot of attention. But let's give them some attention here on Halftime with Harmon. I said on the early stream that I was really excited about the Titans coming into this year. And I feel like the team I've wanted to see all year, we might finally be seeing. Where are you at on the Titans?
I think a healthy Marcus Mariota is turning things around. I do think that maybe working on your mechanics and getting another new offensive coordinator and learning another new playbook is a bit to ask for somebody to turn things around, the first week of September. Couple of things. Johnny Smith has come on over the past few weeks.
Big.
He's scored in back-to-back weeks, also garnered his first red zone touches since after the team's, red zone looks rather, since after the team's bye. I think Marcus Mariota, who is not a pristine pocket passer, needs a big body over the middle to work as a security blanket, and that's why Delanie Walker has been so helpful to him. It took a while. Johnny Smith is a high-percentage spark athlete, but he's a second-year player who's flashed. It took a while for everything to kind of get going. Evolution doesn't happen overnight. That's why it's called evolution. And so I think Johnny Smith's presence, again, I believe they have the Colts next week. The Colts have given up the 8th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends, and they let the Jags' James O'Shaughnessy convert 5 of 6 for over 60 yards today. So Johnny Smith, owned in 1% of Yahoo leagues heading into this Sunday, I think is someone you want to own. Also, the timing between Corey Davis and Marcus Mariota looked much better. It was very frustrating in Week 9 to see Mariota funnel the ball to Davis and sail it over his head. The volume was there, but the connection wasn't. Clearly, they've taken the time to work on the rapport. I'm not 100% sure that it's there because we've seen flashes before, that Philadelphia game being the biggest one of the season prior to this past Sunday. But certainly room for optimism.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And, they came out and crushed the Patriots. 34-10.
There's some Vrabel stuff going on. Patriots South, we can call them. I want to see what they do against the Colts.
Dion Lewis even said, I think one of the NFL Network reporters asked him, was this personal? He said, hell yeah, it's personal. When you go cheap and all that. So there is a lot of Patriots South juju in the air there. But I think that the two biggest factors to me are Marcus Mariota's health, as you mentioned. Having a quarterback who's able to grip and feel the ball, that seems rather important. I like the Jonnu Smith call too. Delanie Walker and him were insane.
He was comped to Delanie Walker heading into the 2017 NFL draft.
And Mariota is definitely a guy who leaned on Walker throughout his early portion of his career. And then the other one is Dion Lewis. And I know that it didn't necessarily show up with the big rushing day, 20 for 57. If you started him and then you saw Derrick Henry plunge in those 2 touchdowns, you're definitely tilted. But the fact that they've seen that this is their best offensive player, this is the guy that should be built around. And that's a trend that's gone back to the London game against the Chargers. We saw it against the Cowboys. And I want to see that continue going forward. I think this offense is ready to take the next step, and we'll maybe even see better things from them in 2019 when they get a little more personnel around them and stay a little healthier in the pass-catching group. But definitely excited about the Titans, and I think going forward they're a unit that we're looking forward to starting and playing. So Corey Davis, you think he's on the every week start radar? The volume's always been there, but
no, I'm not ready to do that just yet. I'm still keeping him on my wide receiver 3 watch moving forward a little bit. I want to know how much of this was about the Patriots and how much of this was about the Titans.
Yeah, no, that's really fair. And if you have James White, I see a couple people freaking out about him. I wouldn't worry about that. The only thing I would worry about is if you were so upset that you couldn't get Cordero Patterson in your running back eligibility slot. And I hope you enjoyed those 4 carries for 11 yards. That was real juicy. Anyways, that is going to do it for the
Oh, that's
week.
it?
Yeah, that's it. We got 15 minutes. If we go any longer, we get thrown out and fired, and we're never invited back.
Oh, so I can go back
again.
to sleep now?
Yeah. No, someone said something about me that the guy on the left looked like someone who eats soup with a fork. I don't even know what that means, but I think that's meaner than what they said about you. It's hard to say. I don't know when the last time I had
Sometimes
soup
you have
is.
hot dog bits in the soup, like
Yeah.
some split pea soup. I don't know.
Yeah.
That might take a fork.
Potato soup. I don't know. Anyways.
Thick soup.
Yeah, sometimes you got that thick soup. Anyways, so that is going to do it for the Week 10 late game halftime with Harmon stream. Liz, thank you so much for stopping by as always. You can find her on Twitter at LizLoza_FF. You can find me on Twitter at MattHarmon_BYB. And you can find this show everywhere. It's on YouTube, it's on Facebook, it's on Periscope, it's on Twitch, all those cutesy little youth millennial platforms that you can watch the show on. And you can make sure to subscribe to the Yahoo Sports Fantasy Podcast, which we will be doing very soon.
In a couple of hours,
and we'll be talking about a lot of the same things we talked about here. But we want you to listen again because, come on, you like us. That's why. And that's going to do it. We're out of here.